Now I feel even more offended watching And Just Like This because there are two characters on the show. One's name is Lisa and the other is Naya. Lisa is lighter skinned. She's friends with Charlotte. Naya is darker skinned and is friends with Miranda. When these two ladies were introduced, Lisa was propped up by Charlotte. Oh, she's a documentarian. She has all these awards. She's super successful. When Naya was introduced, Miranda says, "Oh my God, you're a professor? But look at your hair."
Dude.
And
okay, so colors within Africa communities. It starts with South African because I think they have like different shades of color. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, so colorism is the discrimination of different skin tones within a specific or particular group, right? So, for example, within colored communities themselves, there was still some sort of colorism, yes? Because you had the light skin colors and the dark skin colors, and the colors with a straighter, more loose strand of hair, and there's colors with a more kinky or curly strand of hair. So all of this sort of like added up to a lot of like colorism and prejudice against that, because, for example, during the apartheid era, the lighter skinned colored you had more privileges. Yes, the straighter your hair was, you had more privileges. So there was what was called a pencil test. So they would take a pencil, put it in your hair to see whether it would fall through or like just stay. And if it fell through, your hair strand was leaning more towards the Caucasian side, and you had more privileges. But if your hair was like more kinky or it stuck, you were treated, you had less privileges. And I think this also goes to the brown paper bag test in the US, if I'm not mistaken. But like
tell me about the brown paper bag.
I was just like, tell me about my culture.
They would compare skin tones with a brown paper bag, and if you were lighter than the color of the brown paper bag, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, please jump in. If you were lighter skinned, you had more privileges, and this is in terms of like land distribution, job preferences, whatever the case was. So this is something that, colorism is real, and if you look across the whole African continent and what it is now, light-skinned is always portrayed as better, with better advantages. You have people now that are bleaching their skin because they want to be lighter across the continent, which is, it's very sad. But the reality is a lot of people think light skin is beautiful. It's the way forward, and dark skin, pure, better. And darkest toned skin people are just like less, like not even.
This is what I grew up learning. My life is very particular because I grew up in New York, but I went to college in the South.
Okay.
Right. So, I learned that back in the racist times of America, really racist times, if you were light skinned, you were considered the house N-word. I don't want to say the word, but you were considered the house N-word.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to if you're darker skinned, you were the field N-word, right? Like, why would you even... But they did it. It was a calculation. They did it specifically so they could be able to divide us. Slave owners knew that if black people actually united, they would be annihilated.
Exactly.
So they had to do it by implementing certain religious implements. They were doing it by segregating black people, and this trickled on for years and years, even into the 60s. Like, part of the reason why Malcolm X got killed was because people in his own community turned his back on him, who were lighter skinned than him, that the FBI felt like they were more comfortable communicating to him, even though like his philosophy was like, we all need to unite. It was sort of a violent philosophy, but it was a way of saying, you know what, we as black people, we need to stand up against this oppression. So I see it all the time. Sorry to take over, but colorism, I could talk about colorism in America. Like, I have a confession to make, ladies. Since I'm here on the couch with. So my wife and I just finished the entire Sex and the City series. My wife strapped me against the couch and we watched both of the Sex and the City movies.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And now we're watching the spin-off And Just Like That.
Okay.
And watching it was like, come on, I'm a straight man, so like, why am I watching Sex and the City? Here's the reason. and it goes. I'm going to talk about you for a moment. So you asked me where I'm from.
Yeah.
I said I'm from New York. Woo! Wow. It was the same reaction I get all the time. All the time. And it's always followed up with, oh, I watch Friends. Or I watch Sex and the City.
Oh my God.
like,
no, that was not my point.
I know, but like,
yeah?
it was like, okay, it's the cliche reaction, right? Like, okay, so why do people love Sex and the City? Why do they watch it?
Yeah.
I watched it and I'm like, okay, it's New York City porn, basically. Like, of course, I absolutely love it.
That's
I love
true.
it. But as a black man watching something, first of all, I tell my wife all the time, if there's no black people in it, I'm not watching it. But I watched it because my wife was like, watch this show. It's a great show.
You had no choice.
I had no choice. So I watched it and I said, where are the black people? And then she's like, okay, well then watch And Just Like This. Okay, we'll watch And Just Like This. And then now I feel even more offended watching And Just Like This. Because there are two characters on the show. One's name is Lisa and the other is Naya. Lisa is lighter skinned. She's friends with Charlotte. Naya is darker skinned and is friends with Miranda. When these two ladies were introduced, Lisa was propped up by Charlotte. Oh, she's a documentarian. She has all these awards. She's super successful. When Naya was introduced, Miranda says, oh my God, you're a professor? But look at your hair.
Dude.
And it's like, these are the two ways that these ladies were introduced.
Yeah.
How Lisa was propped up like, okay, this is a very successful, beautiful woman, right? And she's light skinned compared to Naya.
Yeah.
And then as this show is cringe, by the way. Like, like, okay, I understand why Sex and the City was popular, but like And Just Like This is super cringe. And like the way that their stories keep progressing, I don't want to spoil it. Maybe you want to watch it. Who knows? But like, the ways
Not
that
after
the stories
this.
progress is like Lisa is always in a low serious situation, right? Where all of her problems are always solved instantly. Compared to Naya, Naya's problems are is deeper. It's more harsh, and it's like, is this intentional? Are you making her problems like really, really bad because she's a black woman and the way that it was, and then. And we can even expand it to how media is presented now. Like, can I ask you, ladies? Can you tell me a current? And Sam. Sorry, Sam the Wise. and if you're wondering why I call you Sam the Wise, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. You're Sam the Wise. So, can you tell me a popular black television show today?
Girlfriends.
What?
Sorry,
Girlfriends.
Girlfriends.
Popular compared to what?
Popular Friends. Sex and the City.
No. Like right now, that has significant media. Like I could think of Abbott Elementary because Abbott Elementary won some Emmys and some Golden Globes. But like, what else?
What's this one with Anthony Anderson and
Blackish. But like,
Yes,
see, there you go. Like, it's not that much compared to how it was back
so
into
small.
the
I
90s. You had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You had
Yes, I was about to say,
Family
like,
Matters.
Fresh Prince.
You had all in the Family. Like, you had all of these great Cosby Show. Like, you had all before you got canceled. You had all these shows, right? But like, why don't we receive them now? And then when we have black media presented, is always
Oppressed.
drug dealers,
Drugs,
strip
Guns,
clubs.
yes.
You have
Rap
Atlanta
music.
with Childish Gambino, but it was a rapper trying to make it into the industry, and it's like, this is not who we are. Why can't we go back to the days when we had family members, when we was black families in affluent neighborhoods that were uplifting themselves, dealing with everyday issues,
Definitely.
like every other Americans. Blackish was popular, right? Because it sort of went down that formula of family members, but then they kept hammering us with the message over and over.
Yes.
Black people are oppressed. Oh, that's what. Okay, we
And I
get
think
it.
there's like a misconception. Sometimes they joke about, like on Blackish, they joke about some things that doesn't, like, it's funny, but it's it can be a bit offensive
It's preachy.
throughout, the black community in America and even sometimes in Africa. Because I remember he was saying, there was an episode there where they were talking about African food and how the black people in America come up with spicy food. And the way they described it is like, oh, back in the days when you were like in Africa, how we ate was we just kill an animal and we just bring everything in. And I'm like, what? We have very authentic like cultures, and they're like, okay, and they take some part of the culture from Africa, and that's why they eat like those kind of chicken.
It's just straight up ignorance.
Yeah,
It's like when I think of African like media coming from Africa, right? We have 12 Years a Slave, which is okay.
That's
it was
deep.
a great movie, but it's a depiction of slavery.
Yes.
I mean, the closest we could talk about like African affluence and futurism would be Black Panther. But the way that movie was presented and marketed was so inauthentic.
Yeah.
Watch this movie or else you're a racist. Watch this movie because we have the first Black hero on screen. But then you're disregarding Blade from Wesley Snipes back in those days, who actually kicked off the MCU. Right, it was Blade. That was the first Marvel movie, but look how soon we forget about things, right?
Yeah.
It's very inauthentic, and I wish there were more of it.
Yeah.
You sounded very colored earlier on when you were talking about
I'm a color man.
You categorize
black
with
people
it.
only being presented as drug dealers as that's the colored community in South Africa. It's a complaint. I remember watching soap operas like We Are Generations and ECD. And who else did we have besides Chico Boyson and Vanessa? And they never reached any like big role, significant jobs like all the managing directors, CEOs, big businessmen. You are black, you are Indian, or you are white. Colored people fill the roles at the bottom. Or we drug dealers or we gangsters. And I've heard some actors in South Africa complain about the same thing. There's no roles for us. We just drug dealers or gangsters.
You know, funny enough, Polish people have something similar because all you see in Polish media is drug movies as well. Drug dealers.
That's actually
So
sad.
Polish people have a sort of black.
I also think that it's all about marketing. People feel like that's what is accepted outside, then they will give you what they think you want.
Yeah,
If
I
they bring
think
those
so
movies
because
and you always enjoy them. Don't keep on feeding you with those things.
Yeah.
And if they bring it and you guys actually talk about it, then you realize that maybe we should change our.
But Americans are talking about it to the point where it's getting exhausting. Right now, there's a debate in our community about what's more racist, colored people or people of color. Are you serious? When you have the NCAA, that's literally the National African Association of Colored People, right? And colored people are racist. Like they say colored people is racist.
What's colored in America?
yeah, I was about to ask you like
What's colored in America? Anything that's not white. That's colored in America.
what do you mean? Like, okay, you're from I don't know, the Indian
you're colored.
or
If you're Indian, you're colored. If you're black, you're colored.
But
what about the Hispanic, like the Latinos?
Hispanic is colored.
Can I just ask? I mean, to me, honestly, I have never been to the US, so I am almost ignorant
Please feel free
about,
to go. I mean, it's a
about
really,
the
it's
US.
really nice
But
nation.
to me, it feels like anything that is different than the US is put into that specific box, and everyone fits in there. So like they have a list of criteria. You have darker skin, you speak such thing, you have such an accent, so you fit into that box, and that's how we're going to act with you. And we don't care whether you're actually from Africa, or even if somebody is black, born in the EU and went to the US, they're not going to be considered Western, although they have all the values of the Western world. But in the US, they will always still be considered as colored.
That's why we have our holidays. You know, we have Black History Month, and then we have Irish History Month. We have all of these months to contribute to all of these things. You know, okay, you want a holiday? Okay, you have it all. Go for it. Yes.
Yeah. And actually, it's good that you said that, because recently I made this. He's like one of my colleagues. He's French, right? Even I was judging my own biases about color, about his color. So he's a black person, but he's French. He was born and raised in France. And I remember meeting him, and he told me his name, and I was like, "Oh, where are you from?" And he said, "France."
Yeah.
I'm like,
But where?
I was like, continue. And he was like, "I'm French." And he was like a bit confused.
Yeah.
He didn't know what to say about. And then I'm like, "But which country in Africa are you from?" He was like, "No, I was born and raised in France." He has no idea about the culture of Africa, so he cannot like relate himself with Africans. And I'm like, I was like, oh my God, this is so sad that in our mentality, if you have color on your skin, you have to go further. Like,
Yeah.
okay, if I meet an American, if I meet an American person, okay, I wouldn't even ask the ancestor of Chris because it's like really long, like 400, 500 years back. So at some point you lose your identity. But when it comes to the European people, and then they're black, I always expect them to tell me what's behind it.
Yeah.
And he just told me like, like my parents are like from the West, like Togo and Senegal. But I was like, oh my God, I'm like, I felt so racist.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's similar to how it is in America as well. If you talk to millennials or Gen Z, they will say I'm an American. And I experienced this a few years ago when I went back to the States. I was with some friends, and there was an African guy that was with us, and I asked him, I was genuinely curious, like, where are you from? His response is New Jersey. I'm like,
Yeah.
but
You know what I mean.
Originality.
you know, like when I got that same question from a Polish person, I kind of got offended.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Because I was like, a Polish guy's like, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from New York. But like, where are you from originally?
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, what? Like,
It's like so hard to trace back, right?
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
but because especially in Poland, it's not an obvious thing that you meet black person.
Yeah.
So they always expect you're either here as a student, mostly as a student, or you are here for work. So they always expect you to say, okay, like which country from Africa, right? So maybe that's why.
I just think at this point for most Americans my age and younger, race it's split down the middle, and I hate to say that it really is split down the middle. It's like you have a certain sect of Americans that race and identity is the thing, and the others that are like, no, I will actually take a different approach, a more Martin Luther King approach, which is judge you by the content of your character, not by the color of your skin. But like we're in this warped bubble right now where it's like identity is the thing.
Yeah.
When it is, but there's more to it, and we need to. It goes back to what we were discussing, mostly about affirmative action and giving people who has the merit to do the job to have that opportunity to receive it.